Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, I should say. And ladies and gentlemen, we have another wrestling commentary for you all to enjoy with some gameplay of 2K20 in the background. The new EBCW Tag Team Champions of 2K20, the Good Brothers, or the OC, whichever you'd want to call them. They faced off against the former World Tag Team Champions in the Revival, now known as FTR, and how apropos that the Revival / FTR are taking place in this match, because I'm talking about the match that set the wrestling world on fire just a handful of days ago in Blood and Guts. Now, if you don't know what Blood and Guts is, allow me to educate you guys just a little bit. Now, obviously, we know WWE has been doing its own version of Blood and Guts, or its real name, War Games, but because of copyright, they can't call it that, which I understand. But that's essentially what Blood and Guts is. It's AEW's version of War Games. And I love a good War Games match. When War Games first came to WWE in NXT, I was in love with the match. I loved it. I mean, I've seen War Games matches on, the WWE Network and WCW pay-per-views, and I've seen some good ones, and I have seen some not-so-good ones. The last few that WWE has put out have been fantastic, and Blood and Guts was also very good. And I'm not going to say whether or not which is my favorite. I think there were pros and cons to both versions of War Games or Blood and Guts. I think there are pros and cons to both, and I'll talk about that throughout the course of this video. So let's get to it, shall we? So one thing I think AEW does a little bit better than NXT in regards to the actual rules of the match. I like that the fact that the match is submit or surrender, as opposed to pinfall, submission, or escaping the cage disqualification in NXT. Like, pinfall is good and all, but the whole point of War Games to me is to make the opposing faction, the opposing group, quit. That's the point of the whole thing. You want to make them fucking quit. You want to make them suffer. That's what I appreciate about Blood and Guts that we saw on Wednesday night. Now, I actually just watched the match now a day later or so, because I couldn't watch the match live, unfortunately. But I watched it, and I'm like, I really appreciate that. They actually kept true to the old school War Games of WCW. And I liked that. I really appreciated that. Pinfall is good and all too in NXT, but I feel like a lot of the times the pinfall is kind of a cop-out. In my opinion, I think the submission or surrender is a much better rule, in my opinion. Granted, the matches are still fantastic in NXT regardless of what the rules are, but I prefer the old school way of doing it. That's just my opinion. One thing I noticed about the pacing of the match, and my friend JD from NY, who I maybe have spoken about in the past on this channel, he's been featured on a couple of videos of mine. He really he hit the nail on the head. I saw a tweet from him as the match was going on, and I kept an eye on this tweet, and I thought about this tweet as the match progressed. And in the early going of Blood and Guts, you can tell that there was a much more frantic pacing. Like, they were trying to do a lot of fucking shit to each other. They were trying to inflict a lot of pain with a lot of big moves in the early going. And I like it and I don't like it at the same time. Because in my opinion, while it's good and it obviously shows the hatred for both the Inner Circle and the Pinnacle, or the Pineapple, whichever you want to call it, it shows the hatred for both teams. That's like, okay, these guys are beating the ever-living shit out of each other in the early going. This is awesome. I feel like they're now showing off a lot of the big things a little too early, especially with the weapons and such. In NXT, and I have to compare it to NXT because they're the only two types of companies doing this type of match. They save a lot of the bigger stuff for later on in the match. And that could be that could be a good thing, and that could be a fault to them as well, because in my opinion, especially during the the early goings of war games when it's like they're doing the intervals of opponents. It could feel a little slow at times. It feels a little bit slow at times, and with how the opponents are fighting and how the movement of the opponents are, and then once you get to the last group of people to come into the match and it's the official match, so to speak, then the shit becomes really crazy, which I enjoy. But I appreciated that it was really frantic in the early going, but later on in the match it doesn't feel as frantic. It actually was the reverse. It was really frantic going in the early goings, and then once the official match, so to speak, started, it felt slow. And that's probably due to a couple of things going outside of the actual in-ring action. That probably made that happen. But yes, I would agree with JD's point on Twitter that the match felt frantic and it felt like they were trying to do a lot of big things early, which it was good. I mean, I like the fact that the way they were going and the way that they were moving, you can kind of tell there was a I don't know if it was because of the TV time too, but the way you can see how they were moving, you can tell that everything that they did had intent to hurt. And that's just good storytelling, in my opinion. I really enjoyed the storytelling aspect of that in the early goings of the Blood and Guts match. The commercial breaks. Okay, this is where it starts. This is where I start to become a little bit negative towards this match. I loved this match. I loved the match for what it was that we saw on TV. There are parts of it and there are things that happened around the match in terms of a production and presentation value, and there were things that happened, such as this, that just take me out of the match. That's the commercial breaks. Now, this match, if you guys do remember, was supposed to take place last year at Double or Nothing for the first time between the Elite and the Inner Circle. And the Inner Circle, not the Inner Circle, the pandemic happened, and that unfortunately turned into the Stadium Stampede, which is one of the greatest cinematic matches of all time, in my honest opinion. It was just, I had a fucking ball with that match, dude. That match was a lot of fun to watch. But either way, besides the point, the commercial breaks take me out of this fucking match, man. What NXT does that's so much better than AEW in this regard is the fact that it has its own show. The entire show is a pay-per-view style WWE Network show, or in this case now Peacock. And there is no commercial breaks. Everything you hear, or everything you see and everything you hear with the crowd. And the crowds make the match for big comeback moments, especially when the babyface team has to get in and make the save for the heel team. You know what I mean? Like, then, it feels hyped. It feels hyped. And you know what? The commercial breaks take that away. They really take it away, and I really think it took away from a lot of big spots that were occurring in the match. That's just my opinion. And I really wish they had saved this for Double or Nothing, because Double or Nothing is only a couple weeks away now. It's like 3 weeks away. Like, why couldn't they have just built up the match a little bit more for Double or Nothing and then have it happen there? I have no fucking clue why they didn't do that. I think that's a bad decision on AEW's part, in my opinion. I appreciate the diversity of the weaponry. Now, in WWE, you're going to get your typical steel chair. You're going to get your typical, table. You're going to get your kendo sticks and such. Maybe you might get a couple, toolbox things with a chain or some sort of bludgeoned weapon. But AEW had a little bit more diversification in its weaponry, which I appreciate. And a little more diversification in its approach to how to do this match. Santana pulls out a fucking fork out of his goddamn tights, and I'm sitting here like, holy fucking shit, where did he get a fork from? I was astounded. I was like, holy shit, it's Abdullah the Butcher. I was so stoked for that for some reason. Jericho brought in Floyd and beat the shit out of a couple of guys. Inner Circle and Pinnacle, or in this case Shawn Spears, because he brought in a themed chair for himself. They were beating the shit out of each other with that for a couple of minutes. That was fucking cool. They tore apart the ring, which is not something... I think that's a lost art in wrestling. Having a fight to the point where you're having a no-holds-barred street fight to the point where the actual ring itself is being torn apart, and you have to now undo the padding of the ring to actually get the wood. And they did a couple of moves on there, which was nice, and a couple of spots there. I just appreciate shit like that, man. It really makes it feel like a fucking war. And that's what I loved. It felt like a literal fucking war. They took out the turnbuckle, and they fucking beat the shit out of MJF with it to the point where he was busted open. You know, he probably bladed, but that's a different story for a different time. But it's just, you know, it was dope. I like that shit. You know, it's like, holy shit, they took apart the ring and fucking murdering each other with it now. Yeah, that was awesome. That was really awesome. Now here's the part where I get a little bit negative towards Blood and Guts. So I want people to take what I'm going to say with a grain of salt here. I'm going to try and make this as quick as possible because I know time's wearing down a little bit. The way the match ended wasn't my cup of tea. I think if they wanted to make a statement, they would have never have had MJF announce, "I'm going to end this match right now. If you don't, I'm going to throw him off the cage. You better surrender, blah, blah, blah." Don't announce it, motherfucker. Do it. Make them quit. Make them see their leader fall off the cage and make their spirits, and shatter their spirits. You know, like, that's what war is, in a sense. Like, they call it war games, they call it Blood and Guts. What is a more, in history, in warfare, what is a more death blow? What's the biggest death blow to an army? To see their leader fighting amongst them, getting chopped the fuck down. It happened with the 300 Spartans in Thermopylae with King Leonidas. It happened with a fuck ton of other. I think it happened in Constantinople with the emperor of the Byzantine Empire. He apparently died during the Ottoman invasion. Like, how many leaders have died amongst their troops, or have taken falls for their troops, and then their spirits of the army is crushed because they've lost their leader. They're in disarray. That is what I would have wanted to see. Fuck the, "I'm going to throw him off the cage if you don't surrender." "Oh, we surrender, we surrender." And then they throw him off the cage anyway, which is predictable as fuck. Like, I would have preferred if it was like "All right, I'm going to throw him off the fucking cage. I'm going to break your spirits." And then it's like, "Holy shit, Chris just got off the cage. Dude, holy shit, we got to surrender." Because now they're down a man. You know, that's what I would have wanted to see, personally. That's just my opinion. And the actual Jericho spot itself. Now, there's a lot of flack I've been seeing on social media about this, man. Look, I appreciate the fact that they did the spot. I don't have a problem with the spot. The problem is the spot is and the way they're doing it is so fucking obvious that it's just like, why? Why are you fucking doing it this way? In 2000 at Armageddon, when Undertaker chokeslams fucking Rikishi off the top of the Hell in a Cell in the 6-man Hell in a Cell, which is one of the greatest Hell in a Cells of all time, in my honest opinion. Yes, it's obvious that he's gonna throw him off into in the padding and shit, but they made it a little bit more. They did it better. WWE did it better, where it's like they covered it in wood chips and shit, and he's falling into a truck full of wood chips. It's just the production value of things, man. It's the little things that I think AEW isn't getting yet, and it really annoys me. There's like something so obvious is fucked up, for lack of better terms. Something so obvious. Just do a better job hiding this shit. Don't put a fucking giant pad out and expect us, and like, we obviously know there's padding under there. Make it less obvious that there's fucking padding. Like, and even the material they use to cover the damn thing looked fucking weak. So it's like, we know that's not gonna hurt. At least when Rikishi fell in the wood chips, it's like, oh damn, he's gonna get a splinter and shit. It was just like, God, it's like you're falling into a goddamn bed. You're falling into a bed with rubber fucking mats on it. Like, that doesn't hurt. So, it's not the spot I have a problem with. It's the production value of the spot and the way the gimmicking of the spot happened that I have a problem with. But that's my review of Blood and Guts. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today. Let me know what you think about Blood and Guts down in the comments section below. And I will see you all on the next one. Have a fantastic day, and peace out.